Good morning. This morning on Wake Up, it is a cloudy scene across the Central Coast. By this afternoon, we could see some sun. I'll let you know how warm it's going to get.
Sirens blare as tornadoes hit Dayton, Ohio overnight. They destroy homes, uproot trees, send residents running for cover.
And the dangers of drowsy driving. I'm Victor Guzman, live off Highway 1 with more on what is a common condition for commuters.
And they are back together again. How a man and his dog were reunited thanks to the kindness of a stranger.
This is Wake Up on KION News Channel 546 at 5.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, May 28th. We thank you for joining us here on Wake Up and our radio simulcast on Power Talk 101.1. I'm Barry Brown.
And I'm Zach McIntyre, filling in for Erica this morning. Before we get to those top news stories, let's take a look out the window. And it is a bit cloudy out this morning, but the good news is, despite those clouds, it is keeping us nice and warm this morning. Temperatures well above what we saw yesterday for places like Watsonville, 6 degrees warmer, and the Salinas Valley, 12 degrees warmer. So as you're walking out the door this morning, maybe just a light jacket. Along the coast, we're in the mid 50s, and even inland spots are warm this morning in the low 40s for places like Fort Hunter Liggett, but upper 50s in the Pinnacles. And Bradley, you are sitting cozy at 52 degrees. Now we are seeing a little bit of some patchy drizzle out there coming up in a few minutes. I'll let you know where that's at. For now, Barry, back to you.
All right, Zach, thank you very much for that. It is 5:01. We begin this morning with a story that is especially timely at this hour. The CHP wants you to be aware of the dangers of driving without proper sleep, something that happens far more often than you might think. This morning, KION's Victor Guzman is live off of Highway 1. He's got more on the problem. And Victor, good morning.
Good morning, Barry. And you're right, an accident can happen in the blink of an eye. This can be especially concerning if someone is behind the wheel trying to drive to work or wherever and they're starting to fall asleep, which frighteningly enough is a common condition for a lot of drivers, including here on the Central Coast. The American Sleep Foundation says about 20% of people in the United States have admitted to doing just that, falling asleep behind the wheel. 40% say they've done so at least once in their driving careers. Roads here on the Central Coast, bad enough when they're busy, but when you consider the percentages and the number of people getting ready for their commute at this hour, it's important to be at your best, stay alert, and stay awake.
It is very similar, and yes, drowsy driving does mimic impaired driving where you're weaving in and out of the lanes.
In a short survey of drivers here on the Central Coast, some claimed to have driven at most 8 hours in a single day while drowsy. In my next report, we'll go over more of what drivers should be looking out for if they're heading out on the roads and they happen to be falling asleep behind the wheel. We'll have that and what the CHP says you should do in that instance in my next report in 30 minutes. Barry, back to you.
All right, Victor, thank you very much for that. Now, here are some quick notes from the NHTSA. 795 people died in drowsy driving accidents in 2017. The most common times are midnight, 6 a.m., or late afternoon when there are dips in our circadian rhythms. They're most likely to happen on rural roads and highways as well. 2 people, including a 12-year-old girl, are dead following a stabbing attack in Japan. The attack taking place near a park in Kawasaki, about 13 miles away from Tokyo. In all, 16 school children and 3 adults were hurt. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called the attack heartbreaking. Japanese media is reporting that the suspected attacker died of a self-inflicted stab wound. According to a United Nations report, Japan has one of the world's lowest homicide rates and is considered one of the world's safest developed countries. It's 5:04 now. President Trump is headed back to the United States after his 4-day state visit to Japan. The trip didn't produce any breakthroughs on trade or national security, but it allowed the president to spend time with the leaders of a crucial U.S. ally. One shared concern is North Korea. Despite renewed missile testing by the North, the president said things are headed the right way.
All I know is that there have been no nuclear tests. There have been no ballistic missiles going out. There have been no long-range missiles going out. And I think that someday we'll have a deal.
On another front, Japanese Prime Minister Abe says that he is willing to work and try to broker peaceful dialogue between the U.S. and Iran as tensions between those two countries escalate. It's 5:05, time for weather on the fives, and our Weather Authority meteorologist Zach McIntyre is here. We don't normally look at radar in May, do we?
No, Barry. You know, we're usually tracking the foggy conditions, and right now we're not really seeing any fog. Those clouds are higher up, and it's dropping down. A little bit of drizzle here on the Central Coast. Now, not seeing any rain out there, but if you're driving along your morning commute or about to head out, it is a little bit drizzly out there, maybe a few drops on the windshield this morning, and we're seeing that for the Santa Lucias along Highway 1 down to Big Sur, even places along the coast into Salinas and to our northern locations like Hollister and Gilroy. Seeing some patchy drizzle out there. So as we head throughout the rest of your morning commute, maybe you're heading off to the bus stop, we will see those drizzly conditions lasting at least through the next couple hours till 7 o'clock. Temperatures are mild because of these clouds. It's trapping some of that heat in, so as you're walking out this morning, really only need a light jacket if you're used to kind of the cooler weather. It's not terribly cold out there. But here's the good news. It is cloudy right now, but notice as we go hour by hour, those clouds start to deteriorate. By this afternoon, inland spots are going to be sitting much warmer than we saw yesterday. We'll see some more sunshine in that forecast. I'll let you know just how warm it's going to get across the Central Coast. That's coming up in that full forecast for now. Barry, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Zach. Appreciate that. It is now 5:06. In news from Salinas, a man is hoping that someday he'll get his stolen car back, a truck. But for now, he's thrilled that his dog, who was also stolen, is back home. Travis Plink was at the 7-Eleven on Main Street Saturday morning on his way fishing when somebody took off in the truck. Inside that truck, his dog Rue, a black lab. Somebody who saw the story on our 10 o'clock newscast sent us a message that his friend had found the dog. Plink and Rue were reunited at the same 7-Eleven store where it all began. It's 5:07, and we have a similar story now out of Southern California, where burglars cleaned out a home and walked off with a family dog. There's a picture of the dog, Hunter, an 8-month-old mini Siberian Husky. His family is in disbelief that somebody would take him. They're afraid that he'll be resold, and they're trying to get the word out to veterinarians and prospective dog buyers that this dog already has a home.
We just want him back. We don't care about the money. We don't care about, the jewelry they stole. Just bring the dog back.
The family says the puppy was being trained to be a volunteer emotional support animal. They hope that pet families all over the country will keep spreading the word and bring Hunter home. Just about 5:08 now, and coming up this morning, more measles cases are confirmed in the U.S. We have the latest numbers on the total number of infections this year and what's behind the massive surge. Plus, an unusual crime in Southern California. It's not what the crook was doing, but rather what he was wearing. We'll also have this.
Scariest 15 seconds of my life.
A Dayton, Ohio resident relives the terror of a destructive tornado that struck overnight.
And it has been cloudy and cool these past couple days, but it won't last that way for long. We have some warmth that is coming towards the Central Coast. I'll let you know just how warm it's going to get and when that's going to happen coming up after the break. For now, it's not there yet. We're still seeing some cloudy conditions. I'll let you know when those will start to break up. Coming up after the break.
I'm not worried about Drake. I called him on his cell phone earlier, and
You don't think so? That's Warriors coach Steve Kerr poking a little fun at rapper Drake, who is a notorious Toronto Raptors fan. The Raptors eliminated the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that secured their spot to face off against the Warriors in the NBA Finals, and that series begins Thursday at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, an Illinois teenager and his mom have just donated a letter from a long-dead relative to a museum at Pearl Harbor. Max Borland's great-great-uncle Orville Rusher died in the attack December 7, 1941. A letter from Rusher to his sister arrived just a day later after the attack. It said that he'd been discharged and he was waiting for the paperwork to come through. His family has kept that letter for decades.
Real people went through these things, and all they had to communicate was a letter that would arrive 2 weeks later, They didn't know. They didn't know what had happened to their loved one. She didn't know that he had died.
Rushers' remains still lie under the sea in the wreckage of the USS Arizona. The family also laid a wreath at the memorial. It's 5:12 now. An emotional reunion here for one family. A woman who went missing for 2 weeks in a Hawaiian forest is now out of the hospital and back home. Amanda Eller, released from the hospital on Saturday, the 35-year-old doctor of physical therapy, said she went for a walk in the forest and got lost. Eller suffered a broken leg and sunburn so bad it became infected. She was able to survive for 17 days by foraging for food and water. Back here in the continental United States, extreme weather continues to make its way to the north and east. It's now striking parts of Ohio. CBS News correspondent Laura Podesta is following the path of the storm and shows us the trail of destruction left behind.
You can hear the warning sirens near Dayton, Ohio. Overnight, a large and dangerous tornado hit about 8 miles away near the town of Trotwood, according to the National Weather Service. Trees were uprooted, power lines knocked down, and entire homes destroyed. Crews are using snowplows to try to clear debris off highways. It's difficult work in pitch black darkness.
I'm laying there shaking. My head's up against the wall and the wall's shaking back and forth. There's wind from the tornadoes pushing through up through the vent into my face, and I'm freaking out sitting there. It lasts about, I'd say, 10 to 15 seconds, scariest 15 seconds of my life.
Towns throughout central Indiana were also heavily damaged by storms. This street looks like a jungle as crews hacked their way through a mess of branches to clear the road.
It's come all the way up into the street over the last 4 hours.
In Oklahoma, entire neighborhoods remain underwater, with major roads shut down as rivers continue to rise. Near Tulsa, the roaring Arkansas River has been putting immense pressure on levees.
They say if you walk across these bridges, you can just feel the current pushing the bridge.
Those in the heartland who are hoping for a break from the severe weather are unfortunately not going to get one. More storms are in the forecast for later this week. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Meanwhile, more violent weather has been pounding the central U.S. In and around Chicago. A storm dumped 2-inch hail, left flooding behind. Residents in Oklahoma and Arkansas now experiencing historic flood levels. People living near 2 levees in Tulsa, Oklahoma have been ordered to evacuate. It's just so much water there.
I know. It's depressing to see just how the impacts that these storms are making on these communities. It's crazy.
Yeah, widespread for miles and miles.
I know. And actually, Dan Siamka's out there. Have you been following his Facebook page?
Yeah.
He's out there storm chasing right now, and he's been seeing some tornadoes and some cool stuff.
He loves that stuff.
He loves it. It's cool to see. I always learn from that guy. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what can we find out about today's weather?
Yeah, well, no tornadoes or anything, but I've got something we haven't seen in a while in that forecast, and that is the sun. But it's going to take a little bit to break through. We do have some cloudy skies out there this morning, and that's keeping temperatures mild, mostly in the mid-50s this morning. But as we head throughout the morning, we will see those sunny skies later on. So just starting off with the coffee per usual for your morning, but by this afternoon you'll be able to shed off those layers and bring out those sunglasses. And if you're heading to the beach, be a great day to bring out that sunscreen. We'll have a very high UV index with sunny skies for most spots by 12 o'clock, especially out in Santa Cruz and inland locations. Now by dinner time, we'll see even sunnier conditions inland, but along the southern portion of the bay, we will stay flirty with some low clouds potentially, and those will fill back in later on tonight. So as far as temperatures, it is warming up from what we saw yesterday. That's the good news. We'll be in the mid-60s for the Santa Cruz Mountains. Along the coast, we will be in the 60s to 70s. Santa Cruz, you'll be at 73 degrees today. It's gonna be beautiful out. 69 degrees in Salinas. We'll be in the mid-70s for our inland spots today. And as we head down the coast, our sea breeze will keep things a bit cooler as we head south. So Castroville, Marina, into the peninsula, really only seeing temperatures in the low 60s today. 63 is your high for Monterey, 60 degrees for Pacific Grove, 61 in Pebble Beach. As we head down the Salinas Valley, temperatures warming up. If you want to get outside today, this will be the spot to be. It's going to be beautiful out there. Mid-70s to even upper 70s for the Salinas Valley, upper 70s for Bradley at 78. If you're going hiking out in the Pinnacles, it'll be 76 today, and we'll be at 66 degrees in Big Sur. And that temperature warmth doesn't stop today. So as we head throughout the week into next weekend, coastal locations will be in the 60s to 70s. By next Sunday and Monday, inland spots, you are going to continue to warm up as we head into next weekend. So starting off mid 70s, we'll get close to 80 degrees by Friday, Saturday. But next Sunday and Monday, that's when temperatures will start to approach 90 degrees for inland spots. So that's when you can crank out the air conditioning if you have it, and even head out to the beach for that Mother Nature's air conditioning. So I'm looking forward to that. Barry, back to you.
Very good. Thanks, Zach. It's 5:17. Still ahead this morning, a Southern California car vandal's unusual choice of disguises. Plus, vape enthusiasts, listen up. You might want to think twice before you reach for that e-liquid. What new research says about it and your heart health. That's straight ahead. You're watching Wake Up. Welcome back. In your crime alert this morning, detectives in Southern California are trying to find out who left a dead baby next to a garbage dumpster. The child's body was in a car seat, partially covered by a blanket. The coroner's office will determine the cause of death. Investigators now trying to figure out the baby's identity. They're trying to cross-match any missing children's cases with the baby's description. Meanwhile, a man is accused of disguising himself as President Trump while vandalizing cars. He's been unmasked. Here he is, Rory Zimmerman, arrested early Monday morning. Zimmerman was discovered by deputies on patrol, and he was wearing the mask while breaking into cars and slashing tires. He had been fired months ago from a nearby business complex. Workers there say that the vandalism has been happening ever since.
That's like really scary, you know, because if you come here like late at night, I'm like alone for the most part, and you just like, if you come out and notice your car's been broken into like me, you don't know who did it or if they're still around.
Other business owners nearby say that they're relieved that Zimmerman is behind bars, but they're still uneasy that something like this could happen in a generally quiet and safe neighborhood. It's 5:20 now. In this morning's Ag and Energy Report, young adults are flocking to energy drinks, and a judge tells Anheuser-Busch it has to revise its ads aimed at Miller Coors. Jane King is at the NASDAQ. She has those stories and more. Here's our Ag and Energy Report.
A Wisconsin judge ordered Anheuser-Busch to stop suggesting in ads that Miller Coors Light beer contains corn syrup. The judge says the ads need more context. The two beer giants have been duking it out in court and in commercials over who uses corn syrup in their beer. Well, meanwhile, energy drink consumption rising in the U.S. Reuters reports that young adults especially are consuming more of these beverages, but some research shows too much of the drinks can be bad for your health and could be linked to risky behaviors. Well, Tesla will limit charging to 80% at some of its supercharger stations. A report in Electric says the change will only happen at those stations that are the busiest to reduce wait times. And some Midwestern farmers getting down as they deal with persistent rain, keeping them out of the fields, and the trade wars have been lowering prices. One Indiana farmer planning a barbecue for area farmers to pick up their spirits today. Brian Kirkpatrick says this is the most difficult time for farmers and the farm industry he has ever seen. From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Jane King with your Ag and Energy Report.
Well, coming up, are you burnt out at work? You may be able to get an actual diagnosis for that from your doctor. We'll explain. And then, in our next half hour, we'll see a California family very determined to rescue a fawn stuck in the river. The whole thing caught on camera. We'll be back. You're watching Wake Up.
Good morning. It's time for Weather on the Fives. Welcome back to Wake Up. We are waking up to a cloudy scene this morning as we take a look from our Ohlone webcam this morning. See some cloudy conditions. The sun has yet to rise, so it is dark out there. But the good news is those clouds are keeping things mild. So if you're heading out for a run this morning, I would say it is about as good as it can get. There isn't as much sunlight as it that would make things a little bit better. But as far as temperatures out there, mostly in the mid 50s by 7 o'clock. Mid 50s as we approach 8 and 9 o'clock. Those temperatures will be in the upper 50s with decreasing clouds. Now, if you're heading out to San Francisco this morning, expect some patchy drizzle along your commute, and it's going to stay cool up in San Francisco with some coastal clouds really throughout the day. Temperatures only in the low 60s, but as you travel inland, we'll notice a robust warming trend for Places inland getting into the upper 70s, 73 degrees in San Jose, and 75 degrees out in Livermore. And our temperatures here on the Central Coast are warming up too. I'll let you know just how warm they're going to get coming up here in just a little bit. For now, Barry, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Zach. A robust warming trend.
Robust.
Like that. In your health alert this morning, a new study finds that e-cigarette flavors can damage cells in your blood vessels and even lead to heart problems. The study was published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, and it included 6 e-liquids with varying concentrations of nicotine. Researchers found that cells that came in contact with the fluids had poorer survival and increased inflammation. The effects varied between flavors. Cinnamon was the most potent. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports 60 new cases of measles in the last week alone. That brings the total number this year to 940 in 26 states. It's the worst outbreak since 1994. Public health officials say that the surge is due to misinformation about vaccines. Is work stressing you out? The World Health Organization now recognizes burnout in its guide as a legitimate medical diagnosis. The International Classification of Diseases Handbook puts it in the section for unemployment and employment-related problems. Doctors can diagnose someone with burnout if they have 3 symptoms. The patient must be exhausted, experiencing mental distance or cynicism about work, and have problems getting the job done successfully. Doctors can only diagnose burnout, though, in the area of work and employment. Still ahead on Wake Up this morning, why being tired while you drive can be just as bad as being under the influence. The signs you should be looking for when you're behind the wheel. Plus, it's another southern state's turn to pass on a version of a restrictive abortion bill, where that vote will take place and where the law could go into effect. As we go to break, here's a picture from our Mount Toro weather camera. Patchy clouds over the Salinas Valley and just a few city lights peeking through. We'll be back with news and a look at the forecast after this.